What is up, guys? Hey, Jeremy here. I want to describe to you guys the base level of financial freedom. And the way I would title it is freedom from. So the top of this pyramid, to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, like ultimately we're talking about how do we experience freedom of finances. That's the pinnacle. But before you're ever going to get freedom of finances, it starts with experiencing freedom from finances. So let me describe a little bit of what this has looked like in my life and maybe give you some tips on how do you start this process. Because freedom from finances is a little bit easier said than done. There's really two main areas that I'm talking about as far as how this practically plays itself out, but there's a lot of rabbit trails within those as well. But pretty much we're talking about, on a very practical level, living well within your means. If you are spending significantly less than you make, then that is a super practical way that you can make choices that are free from finances. Money at that point practically is not controlling your life. It's not dominating what you do or don't do, as long as you are the one choosing the way that you live. Now, if you're spending less, but you feel like you wish you were spending more, that's maybe not full freedom. But if you feel fully free in living within your means, if you can find true contentment within that place of, for many people, it's going to be extreme frugality if you have a lower wage. But for other people with higher wages, it's just freedom from comparison, from the rat race, from keeping up with the Joneses, etc. If you can find joy, peace, self-worth, and identity living, sorry for my congestion here, living well within your means, that's going to give you a sense of being free from finances. The other aspect, which is even harder, is really that mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual freedom from how you have been taught to associate money, whether that's your family, your culture, or even your kind of like culture of origin or family of origin, like way up the line of ancestry. And those things that you want to get free from might not even be bad things. The point is, they're just not intrinsically you. You want to be you with your finances, just like you want to be you with your friendships and with everything else that you do. And if someone else is ruling you or something else, then you're not free, right? And so how do you get free from finances? Let me describe my family, for example. Like, here's a good thing I would say, that's, or at least it's like amoral, a neutral thing. My parents both were accountants in their career, and so they really prioritized financial security in a traditional sense. Like, they like the job security. If they get fired from one job, there's going to be another job that can hire them, and also like a high paying wage relative to other careers. And very much so, like, that is what they espoused upon us as their kids. Like, go to college to learn a white collar trade. Like, this is not for your emotional expansion as a human being. Like, we're sending you to college so that you can go get yourself a career that's going to pay you well. And that's what they would recommend people to do, right? And so if I were to live my whole life only within that framework, without necessarily my 100% conscious agreement, maybe part of me wishes I could wonder what something else would be like, but I'm just going to do what I was taught to do, that would be financial slavery. And for me, like, I have not done that. I've never had a high paying job ever. I did not prioritize financial security. I went to Northwestern Mutuals, where I started, 100% commission, selling insurance. It's essentially what the job is. And then I went to ministry, making $10 an hour, working 20 hours a week, and absolutely no job security. And then it became $12 an hour, and then it became $15 an hour once I went to 32 and 40 hours a week. And then I literally went to a new state to plant a church, start a church from scratch. I did technically receive a salary for that job, but I personally had to raise all the funds for my salary, and ultimately I became the largest donor to my own salary. And so not a ton of job security, income security. Obviously the church plant could have very well failed, or supporters could have dropped off. Then I went from there into entrepreneurship. Now here's a little bit of a catch-22, is if I was doing all of those things that are on the more financially risky side, I didn't even talk about debt. I mean, that's a whole nother side of financial risk. But if I was doing all those things to spite my parents, or to prove to myself or to someone that I can do it a different way, that would still be financial slavery. That would not be freedom. It's just like slavery in the opposite spirit of the thing that you're enslaved by. You don't want to live your life for naysayers or for anyone else, or even for your inner self-critic should not rule you, right? And so what's the process, right, of getting free from maybe how you were raised to think about money? For many of us, money was viewed at, if you were raised in a lower income household, probably you have some thoughts about money being evil, or people that have money are evil, or just different kind of limitations of what's possible. And those are going to be things that you will need to be free from in order to ascend this pyramid of financial freedom. And how can people respond to that? In all sorts of different ways. Again, you could just embrace that narrative that you were raised with of, man, finances are evil, money's evil, anyone that has money is evil, especially if a pastor has money, he's evil. And so I'm never gonna have money because I'm a good person. But of course, there are loopholes in this line of thought. But I'm not gonna go down that ideology right now. What the point is, that's one way you can be a slave to kind of how you grew up. The other way you can be a slave to it is, I'm gonna get money so that I can get out of this framework that money's evil, because I'm tired of people acting like money's evil, and so I'm gonna have money around me so that I don't have to deal with X, Y, or Z in terms of I need to upgrade my social peer group, I need to upgrade my life, I'm not gonna be stuck in this type of life forever. Again, if those are, generally speaking, it's great to have ambition, okay, we like that for sure. But if it's the demons that are barking at you down this road of financial gain, then it's not going to feel like financial freedom. You will only, if you can only do whatever decision makes you the most money, that is not financial freedom. If mentally, psychologically, it is incredibly difficult for you to rationalize something that is financially suboptimal, that is not financial freedom, in my opinion, okay? And because it just means money's got you. Money's got you. Money tells you what to do. Your job is to figure out what money wants you to do, and then you do it. That is not freedom. You want to be in charge. And if money's got you, more money is not going to help you, right? More money just means You got a bigger boss with bigger guns now. Like, that's not gonna work, right? Hopefully this is like tracking. For me, like, the decision to go into ministry was a financial suicide type of moment. Sorry for using probably a YouTube shadow banned word there, but like, it did not make financial sense. Financially, I could have moved to Houston, taken a corporate job in finance, and my parents literally had like an apartment above their garage that my wife and I could have lived in comfortably. And they would have charged us like nothing, like basically just utilities. And so I'm going to go pay 3, 4, 5 times more to live in a smaller town with fewer opportunities to make $10 an hour at the church I attended as a college student. Like, financially, that does not make sense. Right? Right. Like, if I'm trying to get financially free, if I'm trying to ascend this pyramid, you would think I just got to make the most money. But what was I doing during that time? One, I was being honest with myself. That's really the most important part. Like, that is the base level of freedom, is you internally are free. That's where it all starts. No amount of money can buy that for you. That's why you got to start there. Where inside you're free. I was free to do what I wanted to do, what I felt would give me the most life, purpose, etc. And I was excited about the community support, just being around people that we knew, especially as I moved into this season of being married. And I knew like this job was going to be flexible enough to where I had time to invest in myself, to learn, to grow as a human being. So I got a lot of time to get free from finances in this season where I gave up so much financial opportunity from just a numbers and a net worth perspective. But get this. Okay, several things. A lot of the things that I invested in myself in that season are now like financially valuable assets. A lot of working on BudgetForLife, my budget software. A lot of writing and a lot of financial research and creating different spreadsheets that became the foundation for how I track and manage my investment management. And my own personal investment management developed into a skill that developed into a company at BR Legacy. And so if I had just gone straight the like financial corporate route in Houston, like there's not necessarily quite no way, but very less, like a much slimmer chance that I end up creating these two companies, which are now like the priority of my the primary income drivers for my financial life. And again, that emotional freedom that I got to go deep into because I had the space and I had the margin in my life, and just the freedom of life and the friendships I got to build. And get this, with the community piece, like in a sense, I made that decision prioritizing relationships over money because that's what felt more important to me. And within a year of that decision, those friendships, those relationships, literally behind my back in secret, raised $85,000 on my behalf, gave it to me, no strings attached check, with the intent of completely wiping out all of my wife and I's student loan debt, which that did. You know, we had paid 20, 30K ourselves leading up to that point, and then boom, check, 85K. So even financially, okay, not every story ends in such Cinderella butterflies. I don't want to act like that's the case where like everyone would experience this if you just did that. You know, just prioritize getting free from finances, and then boom, a check for 85K will show up in your life. But for me, that is what happened, right? Really. So financially, it ended up being optimal, even though there is absolutely no way that I could have made that decision to stay in my college town if I was prioritizing only what's going to make the most money. Like, money did not make that decision for me. Freedom from finances made that decision for me. And it ended up also being this huge financial blessing. Does that make sense? You guys tracking with that? So then you also have the cultural piece, which for me, I'm American. So the more money you have, the more successful you are, etc. The more masculine you are. So pretty simple stuff, but you got to get free from this stuff. This stuff cannot rule you. It cannot. You'll never, ever, ever be free if those voices are what you're listening to. So the other piece, this contentment. How do you dive into contentment? What does it look like? Living well within your means, getting free from comparison. And then this intense frugality. For a lot of us, it's intense frugality. For me, it was intense frugality. Like I said, I was working 20 hours a week, making $10 an hour. Okay, I have yet to meet, actually, someone that is like a white-collar background that embraced a deeper level of frugality than I did. My junior year of college, for example, the whole school year spent $0 on groceries. Literally, I was like, if I have to eat one meal a day that I find, like, because someone else didn't finish it in a school cafeteria, like, I am not above it. Now, this is not something most of you guys would feel too humiliated to ever stoop that low in society, right? But for me, because I was, my identity was not tied up in, like, my financial assets, I guess. Like, I don't know. It was just like, I'm trying to save as much money as I can. I'm not worried about catching this disease of poverty. Like, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not worried about social judgment. Like, I'm trying to save money because I'm trying to get married. And so I did. And then we were married. Our first 2 years of marriage together, we spent less than $130 a month on groceries. Now, this is 2015 and 2016. So obviously we've had a little bit of inflation since then. But I'm telling you, that's $65 a person per month. Per month. There's 4.3 weeks in a month. That basically is like less than $2 a meal. Like, for 2 years, not for 1 month to try to, like, we're gonna do this powwow intensify, like, dude, like this. We were content. We lived like that. It wasn't this willpower thing. And for us, intense frugality and the mental game of how do you actually get to a place of joy and contentment in the midst of frugality versus only thinking about it like a means to an end, and how do I get done with this season so that I can start moving into this season. But it's like, how can we make this home? Like, if I never get a raise, if I never develop a high income skill, if I never ascend a pyramid, like, at least let me be on the pyramid, And if you're okay exactly where you are, then welcome to the pyramid. Welcome to the pyramid. And so, anyways, there's I'm just going to keep, in these next several videos, describing each level of the pyramid. And then really each level will become its own entire financial course. Because practically there are a lot of things. Okay, where are the easiest dollars to save? If we're talking about frugality, if we're talking about lowering our income, lowering our expenses, and even on the emotional, spiritual, getting free from some of your upbringing. Obviously it's a journey that might involve some professional help for some of you, and not necessarily something you can just press a button and be done, which is why most financial steps don't even talk about this, because most levels of financial freedom just play into your financial bondage. They're like, oh, you find your self-worth and how much money you have? Okay, great. I'll make a game for you to play, And they don't actually tell you, hey, just so you know, this isn't going to lead to fulfillment because you actually have a bigger problem. They're like, look, I'll take your problem and I'll monetize it. Thank you for your time and attention and money. Horrible. Golly. So freedom from finances, that is where the journey begins to experiencing freedom of finances. More stories that I'll share and more tips on how to master this level to come. But first, I'm going to keep describing each and every level. All right. That's all I got for y'all today. Talk to y'all soon.